Jake Michelle here. It is the end of the baseball season for the New York Yankees, and a disappointing one. A disappointing finish of the season, an interesting season, lots of highs and lows. And I'm going to make this somewhat quick because it's very clear to me and to others who speak about the subject what the problem is with this team and what the problem has been with this team, with these Yankee teams as they get into the postseason. And it starts with their offense. And I know that that's not exactly relevant to this series per se, even though it is in certain circumstances. The bottom of the lineup, Volpe, Trent, and we're going to get into this a little bit, but the issue the Yankees have faced the last 10 years, basically since under Boone, is when they change their approach to, and really the entire league, I'm not going to just fault them here, but to this high variance baseball with, home run or strikeout analytics going too far in that direction. And the Yankees building their team around, you know, that philosophy. And I understand that over a large sample size, it's going to win you more games, it's going to score you more runs. And I know that that matters over the course of a 162 game season, and that matters for playoff positioning. But would you rather be the number one seed, okay, every year? Just assume you're guaranteed the number one seed every year in your division. You win your division every year, and number one seed in your league. But your postseason hitting approach doesn't work. It has not worked since you've changed your philosophy. Or would you rather be a wild card team and have a chance to win every game that you're in? Have a chance to put pressure on the other team every game that you're in? Play baseball, right? We talk about this. And, I've listened to Michael K's thoughts, I've listened to the Talking Yanks guys' thoughts, and they're absolutely right. And the Blue Jays in this situation were 100% the better team, and the Yankees got beat by a better team this year. So, in that regard, I don't think they underperformed, as even Michael K said. Yeah, I understand the payroll, but okay, Yankees have had a big payroll and always have spent money. That doesn't mean anything to me. What matters is that they baseball is not a sport where you can just switch on. You can just flip a switch like in basketball, and you can really start playing better defense, right? You see this in the regular season in the NBA, right? Where a lot of LeBron teams actually too, the Heat teams, even the Laker teams, right? In the regular season, they have some spurts of defensive greatness maybe. But then in the playoffs, and this is really applies to the whole NBA. I'm just picking LeBron because it's the first thing that comes to mind. But, you know, like those Heat teams could flip a switch, you know, a little bit regular, lackadaisical maybe, not as much effort, but in the playoffs they could just say we're going to lock you down and we're going to play defense. And that doesn't work in baseball on either side of the ball. It doesn't work defensively and it doesn't work offensively. You can't just flip a switch and say, we're going to go from being, this high variance home run hitting or strikeout team to getting barrel to ball and letting baseball variance, the good type of baseball variance in the playoffs that works is putting the ball in play and putting pressure on the other team. And you saw what happened in game two. The Yankees aren't even in this position in game four if they don't do exactly what I'm talking about in game three. They put the ball in play, and the Blue Jays made mistakes. And every time the Yankees get beat in the playoffs, it's the same story. It's that the other team is just putting more pressure on them defensively, putting more pressure on their pitching, and that has a downstream effect that affects everything. It affects the Yankees bullpen. It affects the hitting, the pressure they feel, being playing from behind, everything. And they were able to scrape their way back in game three because they did those exact things. They put the ball in play and they were able to take advantage of that. But when you have the same philosophy for for the entire Boone era, and it falls short yet again, you are not going to be able to produce produce good results, and that's what's happened over the last 15 years, 10 years, wherever you want to say it started. Um, and it's disappointing because it's not necessarily a talent thing, or it's not necessarily the fact that they can't go and get the right players. It's just the players that they're choosing to get are not fitting the mold that they need. And you could have one of those or two of those guys in your lineup, that are going to give you some high variance. And Stanton, and this year it was Stanton, really, right? It was Stanton. Stanton, didn't have a good postseason, and he's kind of like the one guy that we kind of have come to rely on. Even, you know, I know Judge has been ridiculed unfairly, and obviously he had a tremendous postseason. I'm so happy for him, and and you know, to kind of get that monkey off his back, so to speak, in some capacity, even though it was a bit unfair. But some of it was granted too. Um, Less so of recent years. But Stanton was the one guy that was kind of, reliable. And he had a bad postseason. He didn't hit very well. Yeah, he had a couple RBIs in a blowout game in game two. He had a couple hits, some impact in game three. But listen, you know, it's okay to have one or two of those guys in your lineup, but you can't have one or two of those guys and then have Wells, Volpe, Grisham. You can't have these guys striking out as much as they do, not getting on base. Volpe is a complete disaster. I mean, we know that, and he's got to be gone. Um, I think everybody agrees there. I don't think there's much to talk about there. And listen, I understand Jazz as a dynamic player, but he's even him. I get it. Regular season, 30-30, you know, second base, he's hitting 30 home runs from second base. What are you gonna complain about? But again, the guy could easily hit 280, 290 every year, 300 every year. If he really wanted to, if he just changed his approach a little bit, maybe he could even hit 310. And the Yankees went out and they got Cody Bellinger, who fit the mold that is a winning playoff mold. And I'm proud of the way Bellinger played all season, and even how he played in the playoffs. And the Yankees just need more guys like that. They just need more guys that are going to put pressure on other pitchers and aren't going to be afraid of the moment. And even last night, they had Hoffman on the ropes, bases loaded. Wells comes up. Hoffman's reeling a little bit, can't find the strike zone. And what does Wells do? He puts a weak swing on a breaking ball over the middle and pops out to the left fielder. It's almost like it's almost like he didn't want to be there in that situation. And he really didn't want to strike out. It's almost like not striking out was good enough for him. I know that's not how he feels, of course, and I'm not trying to be disingenuous, but optics are optics. It's kind of how it looked. And again, the microcosm that keeps repeating itself over and over again is that the Yankees, whether they get beat by a better team or they lose to an inferior team, the reason they lose is the same. And it's because their offense lets them down. And I understand the pitching wasn't great in the Toronto series, and you got to give the Blue Jays credit, and you got to tip your hat to the Blue Jays. They're just a better team. What David Hopkins is doing over there and their approach, I mean, it's just beautiful. It hurts to say, but it's just beautiful baseball. And then you got Vlad, and they don't even have Bo Bichette in the lineup. I mean, it's the Blue Jays can win the World Series. I mean, they really can. But if they hit like this I mean, obviously, if they hit like this throughout the rest of the playoffs, they're going to win the World Series, even with their lack of pitching. But man, the Yankees lose, and I know the pitching wasn't good, but it's still the offense. It's still the offense. You can't score 2 runs, and they were lucky. To be honest, they were somewhat lucky to beat the Red Sox. You know, Schlittler has that performance, incredible performance, and that propels them. And they have all the games at home. You know, they were supposed to win that series, and they made it as hard as they possibly could have on themselves. And they did themselves, they did the same exact thing to themselves against Toronto. They made it as hard as they possibly could, and they got it to a game 4 pretty much against, all odds. They shouldn't have won game 3. Blue Jays were up 6-1. I know it was early, but they're up 6-1. And Judge, Judge does Judge things, hitting that ball out is just one of the more spectacular moments of the season, of the entire baseball season. Um, and it was amazing to watch. And I'm so happy for him that he had that moment. But again, it's going to fall short. And when we look back on this, because the Yankees weren't able to get out of their own way, and the same things that plagued them last year, again, their bats, like they haven't had one postseason where, like Michael Kay talked about, it's a crapshoot, it's a crapshoot. And I agree with him. It's not a crapshoot. And it's not just, oh, we'll see what happens with the variance. When it's 15 seasons in a row of not, and I'm not even as concerned about them not winning a World Series. They've only been to one, and that was last year. Like, it's not like they've been deep every single year and they get beat by a better team. They've only been to the World Series once in the last 10 years, 12 years, whatever it is, right? And they lost to a better team again last year, obviously. And again, even if the Yankees, let's play hypothetical real quick. If the Yankees had beaten the Blue Jays, okay, maybe they beat the Tigers or Seattle, whoever comes out of that series. I like their chances better against the Tigers. I think Seattle probably beats them. Say the Yankees beat whoever comes out of that series and they go to the World Series again. Are the Yankees beating the Dodgers or the Brewers? No. I have zero confidence the Yankees are beating either of those teams in the World Series. in a 7-game series. And it's because of their approach. And it's because of their lineup. You can't get zero production. You can't expect Judge to hit fucking 500 for the entire postseason through the World Series and still lose. Like, if Judge hits 500 or 400 even, you probably should win the World Series like 50, 60% of the time. If your best player is that good, you know, and I know he had some hits that really weren't impactful and he's filling up the stat sheet a little bit. Okay, whatever. He can only do what he can do. He can only, right? But it's not his fault. He's coming up and they're down, 6 runs or 4 runs, especially early in the game. But the Yankees lose every year because their offense lets them down. And the Blue Jays are exactly the type of team the Yankees should copy every single thing that the Blue Jays do, from approach to discipline to building a roster, putting the ball in play, getting early leads on teams, and putting pressure on teams, playing fundamental baseball, playing good defense, being able to bunt, being able to take walks, swinging at the best pitch of the at bat and putting a barrel on the bat on that pitch. That's what the Blue Jays do. And that's why they had a great season. And that's why they might win the World Series this year. They certainly have a shot. I honestly believe they can beat any team. I don't feel the same way about the Yankees. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. I wouldn't be confident. And I understand the Yankees had issues this year. The bullpen was spotty, but the bullpen showed up to some degree this series, even. They held Toronto down after they got that big lead in game 2. They held Toronto down after they got the big lead in game 3, and the Yankees come back and win. They were pretty good tonight last night. So you can't blame the bullpen. And it's again, it's the offense, it's the defense, and it's the way it's been for the last 10 to 12 years. And it starts it starts from the roster construction, the analytics department, and all the way down to the minor league system, developing players, developing hitters. So I'm gonna leave it there. There's a lot to, there's obviously a lot more to discuss. There's a lot more to talk about. We can all play, hindsight Henry and talk about the game. Oh, well, the Yankees should have won the division and it would have that doesn't change anything. The Yankees winning the division, oh, okay. They set their pitching up. Okay, so the Blue Jays just don't hit? Like, is that what Yankees aren't beating the Blue Jays, the Mariners, or Detroit, and then beating the Brewers or the Dodgers. It's not happening with this roster, with this makeup. That's with Judge hitting 500. They're not beating these teams. Okay? Not when Stanton is hitting under 200 for the playoffs, and Wells is an automatic out, and McMahon is an automatic out, and Volpe is an automatic out, and Jazz basically is too. Like, and Grisham was horrible. Like, you just can't have that many holes in your lineup in the postseason and expect to win ball games and be competitive on a day-to-day basis. And again, this is what, the Talking Yanks guys talked about a little bit last night on the recap show, and they're absolutely fucking right. They're absolutely right. And if the Yankees are serious, they'll listen to what they're saying. They're not going to listen to what I'm saying because they're not going to listen to this, but they're right. The Yankees analytics department supposedly does listen to their show. And hopefully they really do listen and take what they're saying to heart because it's disappointing and it's not that complicated to fix. You just have to go get those types of ball players and get a hitting coach that is old school, that understands fundamental baseball and putting the barrel on the ball and shooting the ball the other way through the holes. Passing the baton is winning baseball. We saw, and whenever people talk about this, I always go back to the Royals when the Royals won the World Series against the Mets. That was like to me the most odd. I knew there was no way the Royals would lose that series to the Mets. And yeah, that postseason was crazy, and they had the crazy comeback in the wild card game. For those who remember, they were down like 9 runs or something crazy, or 8 runs, and they come back and to get them into the playoffs. That Royals team was spectacular. They remind me they're actually the Blue Jays are a better version of them because they have more power. But they are similar because they just grind you down. They're relentless. It's no 1, 2, 3 innings, not striking out, putting pressure on your pitcher, having the right approach. And like John Boy said, like Jake said, what works over 162 does not translate to the postseason, and I'm 100% in agreement with that, and I've been saying this for years. And again, we are not playing basketball, okay? This is not the NBA regular season defense and then playoffs start and we're turning it up, because that's just an effort thing. Baseball can be a focus thing for some people, but you can't just go from swinging for home runs and then say, I'm just going to change my approach for the postseason and expect it to work. That's not how hitting works. Hitting's too hard to make a change in your swing or a change in your approach after you already played 162 games and the pitching is better and more amplified. It doesn't work. You have to play that way all the time. And if that means that you lose another, you end up the second or the third seed or the fourth seed instead of winning the division every year, which it didn't even happen this year, right? Then so be it. But if it gives you a better chance to actually win the World Series, then you got to roll the dice. I'd rather this team miss the playoffs half the years if half of the years they make the playoffs, they're getting to the World Series because they have the right approach. So the Yankees have the fortunate, I'll end with this. The Yankees have the fortunate situation of knowing exactly what they need to fix to get over the hump. And Judge ain't getting younger, and Cole is coming off Tommy John, and you got maybe two. If you're lucky, you got 3 more year window with this core, because you can't expect Judge to be fucking Babe Ruth for the next 5 years. You can't really even expect him to be Babe Ruth for the next 3 years. But okay, he hits 40 or 38 instead of 53, right? But you're running out of time with this core. But you know exactly what you need to do to fix it. And whether that's with Boone or without Boone, at this point, listen, I've called for Boone's head before. I love Aaron Boone as a person, but I don't know if he is the right. I don't know if he's the right manager to get this team over the hump. And I don't think Cashman is the right GM either. But it doesn't matter because even with the weaknesses or not or lack of weaknesses that Boone and Cashman have, they still know what they need. It's so fucking obvious what they need to do to get over the hump. You got to get a little bit better in the bullpen. You got to get another starting pitcher. You got to get rid of Volpe. You got to go and get Real Muto and shore up the catcher's position. Dominguez can play here and there, develop him. He's very promising. He can be leadoff. You got to get rid of Grisham, I think. Jazz is, I would say I want him off the team, but he's 50-50. He brings something there, but sometimes I just struggle with his body language and some of his lack of focus, I guess you want to call it sometimes, or his lack of caring enough, seriousness. Like the Yankees have, they're in like a great position because they know exactly what they need to do to put a more competitive team on the diamond every single day because they can just go spend the money if they want to. So I'll leave it at that. Congratulations to the Blue Jays. You guys were the better team. And congratulations to Judge and Schlittler for having a great postseason. And Bellinger was pretty decent too. And the rest of these guys that are going to be on the team next year, they got to look in the mirror. And the Yankees hopefully will give them some help. All right, guys. Appreciate the time.